John Calvin, of all people, has a passage in his Institutes that is absolutely astonishing, in which he works out the social justice implications of the doctrine of the image of God. Listen to what he says. He draws some remarkable implications. Calvin says that he's heard many Christians tell him, there's a foreigner in my neighborhood, or there are some immoral people in my neighborhood, and they do not deserve my help. So don't tell me that I have to give practical aid and help to people who don't deserve my help. Calvin turns around and says, even if they are immoral, even if they are of a different race or of a different religion, they're in the image of God. And this is what he says about that. He says, this is a quote from Calvin's Institutes, this is the third book. Say about the stranger before you that you owe nothing for any service of his, but God, as it were, has put him in his own place in order that you may recognize toward him the many and great benefits by which God has bound you to himself. Sorry, let me translate that. You say, this stranger deserves nothing from me, but God has put him in his own place. Why? Because he's got the image of God in him. Listen to this. You will say, he has deserved something far different from me, but what has the Lord deserved? This is John Calvin. Look at your neighbor. Yes, your immoral neighbor. Yes, the neighbor of another race. Yes, a neighbor who you think that doesn't deserve your help. Look at that person and say, not what he deserves, but what does God deserve? Because the image of God is on him. And then he goes on and says, do not consider men's evil intention, but look upon the image of God in them, which cancels and effaces their transgressions, and with its beauty and dignity allures us to love and embrace them. Do you know how hard this is? This is John Calvin, okay? Supposedly a narrow and a very conservative Reformed theologian. But listen, he says, when you see someone who seems to not deserve your help, he says, remember not to consider men's evil intention. In other words, don't look at their hearts, don't look at their character, but look upon the image of God in them, which cancels and effaces their transgressions. What? Cancels and effaces their transgressions, and with its beauty and dignity allures us to love and embrace them. And then he goes on to say this, each Christian will so consider with himself a debtor to his neighbor that he ought, in exercising kindness toward them, set no other limit than the end of his resources. I'll read it again. Breathtaking. Each Christian will so consider his neighbor, so consider himself a debtor to his neighbors because of the image of God in them, that each Christian will exercise kindness toward them and set no other limit than the end of his resources. So John Calvin says, if you just understand the image of God and you just understand the call to love your neighbor, you understand what Jesus Christ has said about that, and you understand that they have the image of God on them, that you shall set no limit on your willingness to help them but the end of your resources, no matter what their race, no matter what their religion.